Things on. Internet's not out yet. Internet's not out yet. Just open. Yeah. Good. It's working. Yeah. Yeah. Nope. Back in. Good. No. Okay. Alright, looks like the Wi-Fi's stable now. Alright. I was worried about. Alright. From the top of the Tao Te Ching, starting with day this time. Started with Tao Line. Separated into two chapters. Or two sections. I'm not quite sure why that is, actually. Something to look up at the end of this. Now, though, start with chapter 38, beginning of the day. The highest kind of man has innate goodness, and that is what he rules with. The lesser man brags about how good he is, and isn't much good, I can tell you. A man of the day rules by wu-wei, doing nothing for himself or of himself. The lesser man acts from his ego, and what he wants is gratification. The man who rules with compassion acts through it, and no one even realizes. The legal man acts judiciously, but he is still serving his own ends. And the rigid man uses laws, and if people don't like it, force. If the true Tao is lost, then morality takes its place. If that fails, we have conscience. When that fades, we get justice. When that disappears, we have the status quo. Confusion reigns. No one knows what's going on. Forecasts and prophecies abound, and they are merely a gloss on the Tao. They are all the root, all twisted guidance. So the sage only looks at what is really real. He doesn't just look at the surface. He blows away the dust, drinks the water. He doesn't just go for the flower, but also for the roots and the fruit. Blow away the dust now, come to the living water. Chapter 39. Here. That's good. From its first days, the universe came from the One. The heavens are one and clear and round because of it. The earth is one, and its firm infused foundation. The spirit force is one. With all it brings into being, the valley is a oneness, and so it flows and renews all things. Everything is one. Every living thing is one and alive. Kings and lords are one in a kingdom that is one. They can only rule truly because of the one. If heaven wasn't clear, then the sky would fall down. If the earth cannot be peaceful, it will tear itself apart. If the spirit cannot bless, then no one will believe in it. If the valley can't rebirth, then the valley will run dry. If life can't be itself, then life will be nothing. And if the king is nothing, then the world will be at war. Everything has both yin and yang in it, and from their rise and fall coupling comes new life. The highest authority needs the basement as its base, and the depths are the foundation of its heights. That is why rulers call themselves lonely, like souls in a wilderness who have no home. And in doing so, don't they see then that their roots lie with the people? To see yourself as extraordinary is to stand out like jade among ordinary stones. But what people ignore, the lonely and the worthless, is the rock a true leader finds himself on. You see, you win by losing, and you lose by succeeding. Chapter 40. The Tao moves in every direction at once. Its essence is fluid and yielding. It is the maker of everything under the sun, and everything comes out of nothing. They still go. Looking like hello. Chapter 41. When the wisest student hears about the Tao, he follows it without ceasing. When the average student hears about it, he follows too, but not all of the time. And when the poor student gets wind of it, he laughs at it like an idiot. And if he didn't, then it wouldn't be the Tao. That is why the ancient ones said, the path that is bright seems dull, and the one who is going towards the Tao seems, in fact, be going backwards, and those who think that the way is easy will find it extremely hard. The greatest virtue is to be empty like a valley. Those who think they are perfect never are. Those who feel that they are Those who think they are perfect never are. Those who feel that they are feel inadequate to the task, and morals seem to be no more than a contrivance. Sorry, the sentence over there was a little strange. Figured it out, though. It's connecting to the prior sentence. A great square has no corners. A great work is never done with. A great shout comes from a whisper, and the greatest of forms is beyond shape. Tao, without substance, invisible, ever creating, forever creating. Chapter 42. The Tao gives birth to the one gives birth to the two gives birth to the three give birth to every living thing. All things are held in yin and carry yang, and they are held together in the chi of teeming energy. Chapter 43. Very softest thing of all can ride like a galloping horse through the hardest of things, like water penetrating rock. And so the invisible enters in. That is why I know it wise to act by doing nothing. And how very few understand this. People teach in the world what I know to be true. If you live violently, that is how you will die. What really matters most Your image or your soul? What do you care about? Your money or your life? What's actually the best? Making it or losing? If you pour all your energy into one thing, you're sure to harm the rest of your being, and if you invest it all in profit, you'll end up losing the whole lot. If you're not always wanting, you can be at peace. And if you're not always trying to be someone, you can be who you really are and go the whole way. Chapter 45. A great thing done is never perfect, but that doesn't mean it fails. It does what it is. Real richness means to act as if you had nothing, because then you will never be drained of it. The greatest straightness seems bent. The greatest ability seems awkward. Greatest speech like a stammering. Act calmly, not coldly. Peace is greater than anger. Tranquility and harmony are the true order of things. Chapter 46. When the Tao runs the world, the horses work the farms. Without Tao, the horses are led into war along the borders. You see, if people want more and more, it can only lead to disaster. Greed is the seed of apocalypse. It is the rocket fuel of selfishness. Me, me, me. People could only be glad with all they have. If they only knew it, they'd be happy. Chapter 47. Without going anywhere, you can know the whole world. Without even opening your window, you can know the ways of heaven. You see, the further away you go, the less you know. The sage doesn't need to travel around. Why? Because he can still understand. He sees without needing to see. He never does anything. And yet, it all happens. Chapter 48. Usually, people read because they want to know. But the more you study the Tao, the less you want knowledge. And as you want less and less, you come closer to not doing. Wu Wei. This is the way to get things done. The best way to run the world is to let it take its course, to get yourself out of the way of it. The sage is never opinionated. He listens to the mind of the people. I am kind to people when they are kind to me. I am kind to them, even if they hate me. Virtue, day, is its own reward. I trust those who trust me. I also trust those. Excuse me. I also trust those who have no faith in me. What I give, I receive. A sage is self-effacing and mindful of offense. He sets himself as his own example. How shall I treat you, my son? Child. In the normal way of things, every 3 in 10 live long, while every 3 in 10 die young. And for those just passing through their lives, that is, every 3 in 10, the chances are the same. Why is this? Well, it all depends on how identified they are with the mundane world of matter. People who know how to live will never do things that threaten their lives, any more than a traveler who knows will run into a tiger or a wild buffalo. Living well is like wearing a kind of armor that nothing can penetrate. Living badly is like being attacked. Practiced sage is invulnerable to attacks that punch like a buffalo's horn, that claw like a leaping tiger, or that stab like a knife in the back. And why is this? Because he is impeccable. Every living thing comes from the mother of us all. If we can understand the mother, we can understand her children. And if we know ourselves as children, we can see the source is her. And, well, if your body dies, there's nothing to be frightened about. If you keep your mouth shut and stay inside, then you'll live a long time. If you blurt out what you think to everyone, then you won't last long. Value littleness. This is wisdom. To bend like a reed in the wind, that is real strength. Use your mind, stay close to the light, and it will lengthen its glow right through your life. If all I know is a fraction, then my only fear is of losing the thread. The great way is easy, but people are forever being taken down sidetracked. They look after the palaces, but ignore the fields. The granaries are empty. They wear wonderful clothes. They go about with arms and gorge themselves on fine food and drink. How rich they are, and they have stolen it all from the poor. They are the robber barons of now. This is not the real. What is built on rock cannot be pulled down. What is held lightly can never be lost. Meditate on virtue within yourself, and you will find the benefit of virtue. Use it as the ground for the family, and your virtue will last for generations. Take it as your guidance for the village, and the place will blossom for years to come. Use it to guide the nation, and that nation will create abundance. Be guided by it for the whole, and it will flood its way over the world. So look at someone else as you would yourself, and treat other families as you would your own. Seek your community in other communities. Think of all countries as part of your being, and treasure the world as the round center of everything. How can I see the world like this? Because I have eyes. It's a common trait in Chinese literature is the, what you would call, over-obvious answer. Similar a bit to Monty Python humor, I think, of using a metaphoric sentence and, or asking an almost metaphorical question, but being given a completely literal answer, whether that's sarcasm or the person is actually being completely literal. In this case, I think it's a bit of snark is purposeful, that the response to how can you see the world so ideally, it's because you have eyes. How else would you see the world? Answering the question, but not the way they want it, kind of. Chapter 55. Those who have true day are like a newborn baby, and if they seem like this, they will not be stung by wasps or snakes or pounced on by animals in the wild or birds of prey. A baby is weak and supple, but his hands can grasp your finger. He has no desire as yet, and yet he can be erect. He can cry day and night, without even getting hoarse. Such is the depth of this harmony. It's stupid to rush around. When you fight against yourself, it shows in your... But if you draw your sap from your heart, then you will be truly strong. Will be great. If you know what it is, don't talk it over. Forgive me. Chapter 56. If you know what it is, don't talk it away. If you do, then you don't understand. Hush. Keep it in your doorway shut. Steer clear of sharpness and untangle the knots. Feel your lightness and let it merge with others. This, we say, is our basic oneness. A sage who does this doesn't have to worry about people called friends or enemies, with profit or loss, honor or disgrace. He is a master of life instead. To rule a nation, Use justice to win a battle, cunning. But remember, Wu Wei is the only true way. How do I know this? I will explain. The more rules you have, the more unhappy people are. And the more weapons there are, the worse things happen. The more we want luxuries, the more we abandon simplicity. And the more laws you pass, the more we will break them. So the sage says, I do nothing, and the people come together. By leaving them alone, I let them beyond the path. By not using my power, they become rich in themselves, and if I want nothing, they will return to the essence of their being. Chapter 58. Sorry. Bit of a headache. I'm dehydrated. On we continue. Chapter 58. If you govern with a generous hand, then your people will be good people. But if your system is too constricting, then your people will outwit you. Good fortune, we say, can come from disaster, and the reverse is true as well. Who knows where all this will lead? Honesty can flip into deceit in a moment. People trying to be good can fall into the dark, and it can take them years to get out of it. So the sage is like a razor, but he doesn't cut. He is straight as a die, but not pointedly so. He is bright, but not blindingly so. Chapter 59. When ruling the world and serving heaven, the sage uses simplicity in everything he does. Simplicity comes from letting go of what you want. If you've been true to yourself earlier in your life, then day builds up in you like a well that never fails. Nothing is impossible then, and nothing can stop you. And if you have no limits, then you can hold the state. If the sage can find the mother of a nation, then he will govern for a long, long time. All this comes from his rootedness in the Tao of ages, the mountain of vision and of wing. Chapter 60. Ruling a big country is like cooking a small fish. You have to handle it with care. If a sage uses the Tao, then evil forces have no power. He doesn't harm people either. Through day, you see we have harmony. Chapter 61. A great country is like a low-lying estuary. It is a place where all the lesser streams mingle and merge. Everything comes together there. And a woman wins her man. How does she do it? By using the power of her yin like an anchor, a still, deep bowl into which it all flows. This is passiveness. So if a great country takes a low place, it wins over the trust of a smaller state. And if a small country shows humility, it wins the trust of a whole nation. And it's like this. Those who want to win must yield, and those who are yielding should stay where they are. A great country needs to grow. A small one needs protection. That way, everyone gets what they want when the greater learns to be below. Chapter 62. The Tao is the source of 10,000 things. It is the sage's priceless pearl, and it redeems everything. You know, people like to use nice words to impress you. People act nicely to gain your respect. But even if a person is bad, neither the sage nor the Tao will desert him. They accept him. And when the emperor is crowned and the 3 ministers appointed, it's better to stay where you are and be with the Tao than to hurry off with gifts of Qi and a team of 4 horses. The old ones knew this gesture, and by ruling this way, they were never guilty of transgressions or errors. Nothing under heaven matters more than this kind of knowing. I should also state that to study the Tao isn't necessarily to study Tao Te Ching. It's to study the idea of the Tao, the all-knowingness, the completeness, the one of the way. And it's very difficult to do such a thing. That's why it's so self-deprecating at times. It tells you that you're basically running a fool's errand by trying to understand this. Why would you even try? That's what the Tao Te Ching is more or less for, is the book to point you in the direction of the Tao. It isn't the Tao itself. We continue. Chapter 63. The sage does nothing, so he never fails. He holds on to nothing, and so he never loses. Whereas the rest of us always seem to mess up our lives just at the moment when we seem to be succeeding. That's why the sage wants nothing for himself. He doesn't want precious things or possessions. What is he? A student of the unknowable? So he doesn't make mistakes like the rest of us, but always tries to help us, to be true to who we are, without ever standing in our way. And so he says, do things Wu Wei by doing nothing. Achieve without trying to achieve anything. Savor the taste of what you cannot taste. Make a small thing great, and the few into many. Take on the largest things when they're still small. Start the hardest things while they're still easy. It's always the person who thinks they are easy that finds themselves the hardest in the end. The way he sees it, everything is potentially tricky, so he never ends up out of his depth. When everything is peaceful, don't forget the danger. When things are safe, don't lose your edge. A brittle thing can break easily, and a small thing fragment. So, act before it happens. Order things before chaos breaks out. A great tree, which takes a crowd to span its base, started from being a tiny seed, and a tower 9 sections high began in the ground. A journey 1,000 miles starts with the first step. To act as if you know it all is catastrophic, and if you try to control it, you will stare into your empty hand. In ancient times, the shrewdest rulers didn't try to give the people much know-how. Forgive me. Chapter 65. In ancient times, the shrewdest ruler didn't try to give the people too much know-how. What did they do? They kept them living simply. So why are people so difficult to govern now? Because they know too much in their so-called freedom. A leader works deviously. He will turn the people against him. Look and see. But if you refuse to use that kind of knowing, your people will be blessed and happy. This is where 2 streams divide. And if you rule this way, you will be walking the great path of day, deep day, as virtue is everywhere, drawing us all into our final destiny, oneness of the source and the sea. Chapter 66. Why is the sea the king of 100 tributaries? Because everything comes down to it, so it is kingly by this name. So a sage that wants to rule the people must be below them, and if he wants to be their leader, he must be behind them. If he has no desire to control, then the people will not feel oppressed, and if he stands before them for their own sake and not his, they will not harm him. Trusted to everyone, no one will tire of. What is his secret? He never competes, so there is no one else but him. I have 3 priceless treasures. The first is compassion, the second, thrift, and the third, that I never want to be ahead of you. I have compassion. You will die for me. I know that. If I waste nothing, I can give myself to you all. And if I don't seem perfect, then you'll trust me to lead you. These days, people scorn compassion. They try to be tough. They spend all they have, and yet want to be generous. They despise humility and want to be the best. I tell you, that way is death's. If you have loved your people, you will know it. They will fight tooth and nail for you in attack or defense. This is the protection of heaven and your harvest. Chapter 68. A canny soldier never provokes. A canny soldier never provokes anyone, and is never made to lose his temper. A good fighter never confronts his enemy head-on, and those who know how to handle people do it humbly. This comes from the virtue of not striving, and from knowing how to link with other people's energy. Since time gone in the mists, this has been the way to pair up with heaven. There are some interesting translation choices like pair up. I don't understand why a word like connect, be in tune with, wasn't used instead. It's put in apostrophe marks, so I'm wondering if it's an exact translation, like they took the direct translation from the Chinese character and used it to say pair up, because it shows in two of the other day chapters. Chapter 62. The old ones knew this gesture. Knew this gesture was in the apostrophe mark. It's not quotation mark. This is not quoting somebody, though I think that that's being used for an exact translate. Another one is the Tao is the source of the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things is a general idea of infinity, the infinite, in Chinese and Japanese too, I think. The number 10,000 is arbitrarily large, to the extent that like it's hard to count to, but it's used in place of infinity, of allness, completeness of not the one, because the one is one, or the Tao, or many number of things. So I think those apostrophe marks are just a sign of a direct translate of something that was exactly written like that in Chinese script. We continue to chapter 69. There is a saying, you know, which soldiers have: I never use my force before my enemy uses his. I'd sooner go back a foot than advance an inch. This is called going forward without moving, rolling up your sleeve without showing your arm, and by not, you defeat him without apparently doing anything. This is like being armed, but no one sees what you have. Never think your enemy is feeble. That's disastrous. If I do that, I'm bound to lose all I have. So you see, when the battle begins, is the one who seems weakest that will win. Chapter 70. My words are really easy to understand and be with and walk in, but no one can. My words have roots, my actions have precedence. My people don't see this, and so they don't see me. So few of you know or understand me, and so the Tao becomes ever more important. The sage goes round like a super tramp, hiding the jade, the jewel he carries in his inmost heart. That's the conclusion of the day. we move on to Coda. I'm not quite sure what Coda is. We know the Tao is the way. We know Day is virtue. Coda, I'm assuming, possible translation of Ching? Is it Ching? I think Q in Chinese, or in the Latinization of Chinese script, when you see a Q, it makes the cha. And when you see the CH, it goes ja, like a hard J. The letter in Arabic is also ja. I don't know why I used that. Not like joy. Jing. In French, there's a less extreme J noise. I guess the word J even. J noise in it. In French, though, it's sh. It's softer. They come from different parts of the mouth. The French one, it comes from almost the front of, almost touching the teeth. But it's a humming noise. Sh. It's the voiced form of shush. Or forgive me, the nasal form of sh, because sh is voice, ch is not voiced, it's fricative. And shoot, I lost my train of thought. Ja is a palatal. It comes on your tongue hitting the top part of it. Palatal. Chapter 71 of the Coda. Those who know seem not to know, and those who don't pretend they do. This is what it means to be flawed. If you're sick of this, then you'll win this through. The sage is. He is sick of all faults. He is sick of being sick. He is well. Another show of that wit that comes from the Tao is using a metaphor and the literal form at the same time. I am sick of this. I am sick of being sick. Sick of Manfred. Idiom of I'm sick of this. I'm not sure if it's a direct translation. No, it doesn't have the apostrophe, so I wonder if it's just a localization of it, or a forgive me, not a localization, a translation that's supposed to fit in a similar way. These translations are hard to do. It's hard to carry over all of that intense wisdom and knowledge that was written perfectly in its native language. Make sure to read more than one translation if you want the whole picture of something. It's very difficult to translate correctly and have the meaning come with. Chapter 72. When the people lack a sense of awe, there is bound to be disorder or disaster. Never oppress them in their own homes, or interfere with their means of livelihood. If you don't oppose them, they won't try to depose you. So, the sage, who really knows himself, never shows himself off to his people, loves himself without false pride, discards the mask, and wears his true face. Chapter 73. A person who is brash and fearless will die. A person who is cautious will survive. These two are right, and they are wrong. Heaven looks down on both, and who knows the truth? So even the sage admits some things are beyond him. The Tao of heaven doesn't struggle, but it wins through. It doesn't ask, yet it always hears the answer. It doesn't demand, yet things come. because they want to. It has no desires, and yet everything works out as if planned. And though the net of heaven is wide, not even the tiniest whisper escapes it. Chapter 74. If people are not afraid, it is useless to try and scare them with death. And if people are afraid of death, and you make a point of hanging every criminal, then who would dare to do anything? Any killing must be done by an official executioner. If someone else were to do it, it would be like trying to copy a master carpenter. And if you try to cut like him, you only bloody your own hands. Chapter 75. Why are people hungry? Because your taxes. That is why they have nothing. Why are the people angry? Because you endlessly impose your laws. That is why they can't take anymore. And why aren't they scared of death? Because you are voracious and you want everything. So what have they got left to lose? Those who only have a little really know how to value life. When a body is alive, it is soft and supple. It is cold and rigid when it dies. When plants are alive, they are tender and trailing, and burnt and brittle when they are dead. What's iron hard is what is dead. And what is fluid and sensuous and rippling is alive. And that is why a huge army with all its strength and complacency will be defeated, like a great tree axed down. Everything hard and strong will come down, and everything soft shall rise, overcome. Chapter 77. The Tao of Heaven is like the tensing of a bow. What is above is drawn down, and what's below is drawn up. What has plenty is drawn from, and what is given to what doesn't have enough. The heavenly Tao takes from those who have too much, and gives to those who have little or nothing. Ah, but the human way is different. Even the wealthiest leech the poor, so they can have even more. What kind of person is it who has more than they need, and so gives it out, and gives it freely? Only a being that is filled with the Tao. Chapter 78. Nothing in the world is softer than water, but we know it can wear away the hardest of things. The supple overcomes the hard, and the so-called weak the strong. People know this, but no one quite believes it. The sage always shoulders the blame and the grief. That is why he is fit to rule. He takes on his nation like a world, and if it was the world, and so it is, and the truth is that the truth is often a paradox. One thing I've noticed while reading this is that often the finishing line of each chapter seems somewhat unrelated or nonsensical. I don't think that's the case. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the Tao, which would be really funny. It'd be hilarious because the Tao seems to want to be misinterpreted. But it reminds me similarly to the structure of a sonnet where just check. No idea. It reminds me of a sonnet. And the fact that there is the continuing idea and then the last two lines of the sonnet end the story. It's what ends the sonnet. But it's line is often much stronger than the rest, or maybe it's stronger because of what came prior. So I wonder if all the lines before each of these chapters is supposed to up to that last line or to come as a surprise, perhaps. It's hard to say. I've not studied this book nearly enough, but so far it's been extremely interesting. I didn't expect it to be like this. I partially expected the contradictions, because that's what I know it to be for. But the rest of it's been surprising and interesting. Chapter 79. If you've had a real set-to with someone, you've tried to patch it up, and there's still some bitterness, what can you do? I tell you, repay bitterness with good. Those who practice day hold credit, but don't demand repayment. Those who practice virtue do their bit, and those without it will expect you to. The Tao of Heaven doesn't deal in nepotism. It just graces good people, like it always has and will. Chapter 80. If a nation could be small, with few enough people, even if you had the means to produce more, they'd be useless. Such a people would know that death is real. They wouldn't travel far, even if they were able to. They would not vaunt their army or their weaponry. They would count in their heads again, and write by hand. Their food would be simple. They would feed them. Their clothes would be fine, but homely. And they would have fires in their home. They would be happy with what they have. And even though they'd live along the border within earshot of their neighbors' cocks at dawn and the dogs barking, they wouldn't mind if they never went there. It is enough for them to live and let live. Chapter 81. No one likes the honest truth, and all fine talk falls short of it. Real words are never used to seduce you, and those that do are no good. The one who really knows, knows without books. The so-called learned know nothing. The sage holds nothing of himself back. He uses all he has for you, and that is his reward. He gives all he is, and that is why he's rich. And the Tao of Heaven feeds everything, and harms nothing, and the sage's Tao completes it without doing anything. That is the final line of the Ching, and I think that is the best way to end it. That the Tao, Heaven, everything harms nothing. Sage's Tao, the part that you are capable of leading, completes it without doing anything. Do not interfere with what Heaven is doing, with the goal of being around you. And that's the Tao Te Ching. We have a few options for what's next. If you'd like to choose from them, I don't mind reading any of them. I like the Prophet a lot. If you're familiar with, what's his name? Paulo Coelho. You wrote The Alchemist, popular book, as recent. He has another book called The Manuscript Found in Accra, and it's basically the same as The Prophet, so if you're familiar, it's going to be like. Walt Whitman is an American poet from the 1800s. Not World War II, post-Civil War, post-Bellum period. We say antebellum for pre, but I don't know what we say for both. I think we just say post-Civil War. He was a breakaway from many conventions that existed at the time. I suppose you could say that about most poets that we remember, by the fact that they broke away from a tradition and made their own. He is a predecessor to American modernism. I don't think he was an expat. I think he was an American because he's considered one of the greatest American writers, along with Tennyson was English. I don't think it's Tennyson. Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe. He's one of the great American novel writers, the ones that are considered the New World canon, as it was. And then, of course, we have Keats, John Keats, my favorite of the three largest poets of English Romanticism. He had a beautiful, extreme depth to his poems that came off far more genuine than Shelley or Byron to me. And I think that's because he experienced the extremes of his life as well, whereas Shelley and Byron were always part of the aristocracy. Keats earned his way into the public sphere from nothing, so he had two vantage points to look out of the world. And that tends to make better art, I think. It's not a necessary factor, but it's like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is a square. You have better chances with more things like that. It's like if you don't come from the wealthiest of places, you have to work harder, and that pressure, that crucible of existence often makes many talented people. It crushes so many more, but creates more as well. As for the world of the rich, they have far more resources available to them. They have, with that, they could do nearly anything. They could become excellent scholars. They could become researchers. You could see many examples of aristocracy from 17 and 1800s Europe spending extreme amounts of wealth on research. Pulling a blank on names, but not Lamarck. His name escapes me. Come on. That's so lame. He had a thing for the let them eat cake lady. Marie Antoinette. What was his name? I'm looking it up. This is Bob. Can't remember one guy's name. Marie Antoinette. She had relation with I know what he did. He looked at he's oxygen, hydrogen, like, why can't I remember? I don't understand what that is. It's a cat with sunglasses. Does that mean something? I actually don't know what emojis are available to me. Touchdown. And I scroll up. Oh, champ. Reptile? I thought it was a person. But it was a person. These look different. No idea. Getting mad about that hole. No. Was it Joseph Priestley? Ooh. It was a Frenchman. Antoine Lavoisier. That's his name. He was one of the predecessors of chemistry. He was instrumental in creating the table of elements. He didn't make the modern one. That belongs to Mendeleev, I believe. Russian. Bearded fellow. Big beards in that time, kind of like Charles Darwin, but his was more scraggly. He was very unkempt. Antoine Lavoisier took away the idea of. He was like the first person really to escape away from alchemy. And the idea, he was foundational in the idea of there being elements that can go down to nothing. They can be a single element. Before it was like you could turn something, completely destroy it. You turn it to ash, and it's just nothing. Lavoisier was not the case. Recovery of the roll, oxygen in. Oh, gotcha. Okay, makes sense. I think Lavoisier split oxygen and hydrogen now. Conservation of matter. Yes, of course. There's so much better names for this, and I know this stuff. I just drawing so many blanks. Perhaps it's being on a camera. I'm not used to it. Oh, you're studying chemistry. How lovely. I majored in biochemistry. While listening to the stream. Oh, glad I can help you with that. Sorry for the interruption. Guess we'll go on to the Prophet, Khalil Gibran, a Lebanese American who is also an artist. Not as well known for his paintings or his sketches, but say that the Prophet is his most well-known work. He also did some poetry. Not to say that the Prophet isn't poetry, but it is more prose-focused. It's and not even an ornate prose, but a mystical prose, I'd say, more so. It's a book of wisdom, a book of one man giving advice to the many, and they ask him questions and he answers. I don't know if it's Khalil's worldview or if this is something that's completely opposed to what he believed in. Anyway, we move on to it. Perhaps we'll do Walt Whitman next. Perhaps we'll do Keats next. No problem with slouching in my chair when I'm not focusing. Do. That's good. Yes. Can you hear me now? Got that now? Oh, I know what that noise was now. It was my bracelet hidden. It's covered before with the you call sleeve of my jacket. It is now once more. Chapter 1. Does it have a name? It should have a name. Coming of the ship. Al-Mustafa, the chosen and the beloved, who was a dawn unto his own day, had waited 12 years in the city of Orphalese for his ship that was to return and bear him back to the isle of his birth. And in the 12th year, on the 7th day of Elul, the month of reaping, he climbed the hill without the city walls and looked seaward, and he beheld his ship coming with the mist. Then the gates of his heart flung open, and his joy flew far over the sea, and he closed his eyes and prayed in the silences of his soul. But as he descended the hill, sadness came upon him, and he thought in his heart, "How shall I go on in peace, and without sorrow, nay, not without a wound in the spirit, shall I leave this city? Long were the days of pain I have spent within its walls, and long were the nights of aloneness, and who can depart from his pain and his aloneness without regret? Too many fragments of the spirit have I scattered in these streets, and too many are the children of my longing that walk naked among these hills, and I cannot withdraw from them without a burden and an ache. It is not a garment I cast off this day, but a skin that I tear with my own hands. Nor is it a thought I leave behind me, but a heart made sweet with hunger and with thirst. Yet I cannot tarry longer. The sea that call all things unto her calls me, and I must embark. For to stay, though the hours burn in the night, is to freeze and crystallize and be bound in a mold. Fain would I take with me all that is here, but how shall I? A voice cannot carry the tongue and the lips that gave it wings. Alone must it seek the ether, and alone, and without his nest, shall the eagle fly across the sun." Now when he reached the foot of the hill, he turned again towards the sea. He saw his ship approaching the harbor, and upon her prow the mariners, the men of his own land. And his soul cried out to them, and he said, "Sons of my ancient mother, you riders of the tide, how often have you sailed in my dreams? And now you come in my awakening, which is my deeper dream. Ready am I to go, and with my eagerness, with sails full, set awaits the wind. Only another breath will I breathe in this still air, only another loving look cast backward, and then I shall stand among you, seafarer among seafarers, and you, vast sea, sleepless mother, who alone are the peace and freedom to the river and the stream. Only another winding, only another winding will this stream make, only another murmur in this glade, and then shall I come to you, a boundless drop to a boundless ocean." And as he walked, he saw from afar men and women leaving their fields and their vineyards, and hastening towards the city gates. And he heard their voices calling his name, shouting from field to field, telling one another of the coming of his ship. And he said to himself, "Shall the day of parting be the day of gathering? And shall it be said that my eve was in truth my dawn? And what shall I give unto him who has left his plough in mid-furrow, or to him has stopped the wheel of his winepress? Shall my heart become a tree heavy laden with a fruit that I may gather and give unto them? And shall my desires flow like a fountain that I may fill their cups? Am I a harp that the hand of the mighty may touch me, or a flute that his breath may pass through me? Seeker of silences am I. And what treasures have I found in silences that I may dispense with confidence? This is my day of harvest. In what fields have I sowed the seed? And in what unremembered seasons? If this indeed be the hour in which I lift up my lantern, it is not my flame that shall burn therein. Empty and dark shall I rise my lantern, and the guardian of this night shall fill it with oil, and he shall light it also. These things he said in words, but much in his heart remained unsaid, for he himself not speak his deeper secret. And when he entered into the city, all the people came to meet him, and they were crying out to him as with one voice. The elders of the city stood forth and said, "Go not yet away from us. A noontide have you been in our twilight?" Twilight, asked Ephraim. "A noontide have you been in our twilight, and your youth has given us dreams to dream. No stranger are you among us, nor a guest, but our son and our dearly beloved. Suffer not yet our eyes to hunger for your face." And the priests and the priestesses said unto him, "Let not the waves of the sea separate us now, and the years you have spent in our midst become a memory. You have walked among us, a spirit, and your shadow has been seen, a light upon our faces. But have we loved you? But speechless was our love, and with veils has it been veiled. Yet now it cries aloud unto you, and would stand revealed before you. And ever has it been that love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation." And others came also, and entreated him. But he answered them not. He only bent his head, and those who stood near his tears falling upon his breast. And he, the people, proceeded towards the great square before the temple. And there came out of the sanctuary a woman whose name was Almitra, and she was a seeress. And he looked upon her with exceeding tenderness, for it was she who had first sought and believed in him when he had been but a day in their city. And she hailed him, saying, "Prophet of God, in quest of the uttermost, long have you searched the distances for your ship, and now your ship has come, and you must needs go. Deep is your longing for the land of your memories, and the dwelling place of your greater desires, and our love would not bind you, nor our needs hold you. Yet this we ask ere you leave us, that you speak to us and give us your truth, and we will give it unto our children, and they unto their children, and it shall not perish. In your aloneness you have watched with our days, and in your wakefulness you have listened to the weeping and the laughter of our sleep. Now therefore, disclose us to ourselves, and tell us all that we have been shown you, that which is between birth and death." And he answered, "People of Orphalese, of what can I speak, save of that which is even now moving within your souls?" Then said Almitra, "Speak to us of love." And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, "When love beckons you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. And when his wings unfold, you yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams, as the north wind lays waste to the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even if he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he descends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you onto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if your fear, you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you to cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor, into the seasonless world, where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. Love gives not but itself, and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. And you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love, and must needs have desires, let these be your desires. Confusing sentence. But if you love, and must needs have desires, you love, must needs have desires. Excuse me? You love, must needs have desire. Oh, but if you love and have desires, must needs be. If you are in the requirement of having desires, that makes sense. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires. To melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night. To know the pain of too much tenderness. To be wounded by your own understanding of love. And to bleed willingly and joyfully. To wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving. To rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy. To return home at eventide with gratitude. And then to sleep. A prayer for the beloved in your heart, a song of praise upon your lips. I'm not sure how to quantify the chapters. It doesn't have a thing at the top telling me the chapter ends. It just has notes of the table of contents, and when the prophet speaks, and the topic comes up, the way the prophet is structured is it's not a dialectic, it's a didactic. It is a prompting of a question, and then an answer by a teacher. It's not a showdown of two ideals as much as it is the explanation of one idea. It's similar to the Tao Te Ching in that it is a series of ideals given rather fast pace and completeness. It's a complete to live life. It doesn't tell you what to eat. It's like a dietary. And it's not the Talmud or Quran, the Bible. I haven't read the Dhammapada. Don't know what it means there. But it's more similar to the Tao Te Ching than it is to a story where there's a back and forth. But a narrative. But I could have just said that. It's so long-winded. Back to the story. Then Almitra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, master?" He answered, saying, "You were born together, and together shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your loaf of bread. but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together, and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts, and stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." He said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the boughs from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth." One word. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. Even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. Then said the rich man, "Speak to us of giving." And he answered, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep and guard for fear that you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the overprudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need, but need itself? Is it not dread of thirst when your well is full, a thirst that is unquenchable? There are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. And there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life, the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. And there are those who give and know not pain in giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. The give is, in yonder valley, the myrtle breathes its fragrances into space. Through the hands of such as these God speaks, and from behind their eyes he smiles upon the earth. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked, through understanding, and to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive a joy greater than giving. And is there aught you hold? All you have shall someday be given. Therefore, give now, that the season of giving may be yours, and not your inheritors. You often say, "I would give, but only deserving." Or could say not so, you're the flocks in your pasture. To give that they may live, or to withhold is to perish. Surely he who is worthy to receive his days and his nights is worthy of all else from you. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup, a little stream. And what desert greater shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? See first that yourself deserve to be a giver and an instrument of giving. For in truth, It is life that gives unto life, while you, who deem yourself a giver, are but a witness. And you receivers, and you are all receivers, assume no weight of gratitude, lest you lay a yoke upon yourself and upon him who gives. Rather, rise together with the giver on his gift as on wings. For to be over mindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has the free-hearted earth for mother and God for father. Three, I think. Quite. This is the third key we're covering. We're going over. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it can pick up. It's just picking up. Wow. I make a habit of that. Realized that I put ASMR on the thing. I'm not actually doing ASMR. I'm just talking softly. I'm not whispering. I'm sure as I'm not trying to crinkle book page microphone. It's what it is. Can't escape every noise. I'm thirsty. We're into a 10-hour fire. I sure hope that fireplace isn't copyright. Kind of fun. You copyrighted crackling wood. Do the do. We'll worry about it for another day. Continue. It's so concerning. Then an old man, a keeper of an inn, said, "Speak to us of eating and drinking." And he said, "Would that you could live on the fragrance of the earth, and like an air plant be sustained by the light, since you must kill to eat, and rob the newly born of its mother's milk, at your thirst. Let it then be an act of worship, and let your board stand, an altar on which the pure and the innocent of forest and plain are sacrificed for that which is pure and still more innocent in man. When you kill a beast, say to him in your heart, by the same power that slays you, I too am slain, and I too shall be consumed. For the law that delivered you into my hand shall deliver me into a mightier hand. Your blood and my blood is not the sap that feeds the tree of heaven. And when you crush an apple with your teeth, say to it in your heart, your seeds shall live in my body, and the buds of your tomorrow shall blossom in my heart, and your fragrance shall be my breath, and together we shall rejoice through all the seasons. And in the autumn, when you gather the grapes of your vineyards for the winepress, say in your heart, I too am a vineyard, and my fruit shall be gathered for the winepress. And like new wine, I shall be kept in eternal vessels. And in winter, when you draw the wine, let there be in your heart a song for each cup, and let there be in the song a remembrance for the autumn days, and for the vineyard, and for the winepress. Then a plowman said, Speak to us of work. And he answered, saying, You work, that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger unto the season, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite. When you work, you are a flute through whose heart the whispering of the hours turns to music. Which of you would be a reed, dumb and silent, when all else sings together in unison? Always you have been told, work is a curse and labor a misfortune. I say to you that when you work, you fulfill a part of Earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born, and in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. But if you in your pain call birth an affliction, and the support of the flesh a curse written upon your brow, and I answer that not but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. You have been told also that life is darkness, and in your weariness you echo what was said by the weary. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save when there is urge, and all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge, and all knowledge is vain, save when there is work, and all work is empty, save when there is love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself, and to one another, and to God. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. It is to build a house with affection, even as if your beloved were to dwell in that house. It is to sow seeds with tenderness and reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat the fruit. It is to charge all things you fashion with a breath of your own spirit, and to know that all the blessed dead are standing about you and watching. Often have I heard you say, as if speaking in sleep, He who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone is nobler than he who plows the soil. And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on a cloth in the likeness of man is more than he who makes the sandals for our feet. I say, not in sleep, but in the wakefulness of noontide, that the wind speaks not more sweetly to the giant oaks than to the least of all the blades of grass, and he alone is great who turns the voice of the wind into a song made sweeter by his own loving. Work is love made visible, and if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. For if you bake bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds but half man's hunger. And if you grudge the crushing of the grapes, your grudge distills a poison in the wine. And if you sing, though as angels, and love not the singing, you muffle man's ears to the voices of the day and the voices of the night. I really need to work on my segues between talking about things relating to the book or unrelated. Reading the next chapter when I have to do something. Scratch my forehead or drink some water, which I'm going to do again. Definitely didn't drink enough today. Definitely made a mistake. How do I feel about the writing? I think it's okay. Could it be better? Honestly, the thing that's bad is 480p. What else can I do? My background looks okay, I think. What is that? It's the mic. Background. is of nothing. That's what it is. Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. It is not the cup that holds your wine, the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven. Is it not the lute that soothes your spirit, the very wood that was hollowed with knives? Hollowed out. Not hallowed, it's not sacred. I mean, it could be sacred. Semantics. Hollowed. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say to you, I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and one sits alone with you at your board. Remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at a standstill, balanced. And the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver. Needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. Then a mason came forth and said, "Speak to us of houses." And he answered and said, "Build of your imaginings a bower in the wilderness ere you build a house within the city walls. For even as you have homecomings in your twilight, so has the wanderer in you, the ever distant and alone. Your house is your larger body. It grows in the sun and sleeps in the stillness of night. And it is not dreamless. Does not your house dream, and dreaming, leave the city for a grove or hilltop? Would that I could gather your houses into my hand, and like a sower, scatter them in the forest and meadow. Would the valleys were your streets, and the green paths your alleys, that you might seek one another through vineyards, and come with the fragrance of the earth in your garments. These things are not yet to be. In their fear your forefathers gathered too near together, and that fear shall endure a little longer. A little longer shall your city's walls separate your hearths from your fields. And tell me, people of Orphalese, what have you in these houses, and what is it you guard with fastened doors? Have you peace, the quiet urge that reveals your power? Have you remembrances, the glimmering arches that span the summits of the mind? Have you beauty that leads the heart from things fashioned of wood and stone to the holy mountain? Tell me, have you these in your houses? Or have you only comfort, and the lust for comfort, that stealthy thing that enters the house as a guest, and then becomes a host, and then a master? Aye. And it becomes a tamer, and with hook and scourge makes puppets of your larger desires. Though its hands are silken, its heart is of iron. It lulls you to sleep only to stand by your bed and jeer at the dignity of the flesh. It makes mock of your sound senses and lays them in the thistledown like fragile vessels. Verily, the lust for comfort murders the passion of the soul, and then walks grinning in the funeral. But you, children of space, you restless in rest, you shall not be trapped nor tamed. Your houses shall not be an anchor, but a mast. It shall not be a glistening film that covers a wound, but an eyelid that guards the eye. You shall not fold your wings, that you may pass through doors, nor bend your heads that they strike not against the ceiling, nor fear to breathe lest walls should crack and fall down. You shall not dwell in tombs made by the dead for the living, and though of magnificence and splendor, your house shall not hold your secret nor shelter your longing. For that which is boundless in you abides in the mansion of the sky, whose door is the morning mist, and whose windows are the songs and the silences of night. And the weaver said, "Speak to us of clothes." And he answered, Your clothes conceal much of your beauty, yet they hide not the unbeautiful. And though you seek in garments the freedom of privacy, you may find in them a harness and a chain. Would that you could meet the sun and the wind with more of your skin and less of your raiment, for the breath of life is in the sunlight, and the hand of life is in the wind. Some of you say it is the North One who has woven the clothes we wear, and I say aye, it was the North Wind. But shame was his loom, and the softening of the sinews was his thread. And when his work was done, he laughed in the forest. Forget not that modesty is for a shield against the eye of the unclean. And when the unclean shall be no more, what were modesty but a fetter and a fouling of the mind? Yet forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair. And the merchant said, Speak to us of buying and selling. And he answered and said, To you the earth yields her fruit, and you shall not want if you but know how to fill your hands. It is in exchanging the gifts of the earth you shall find abundance and be satisfied. Yet unless the exchange be in love, kindly justice, it will but lead some to greed and others to hunger. When in the marketplace, you toilers of the sea and fields and vineyards, meet the weavers and the potters and the gatherers of spices. Invoke then the master spirit of the earth, to come into your midst and sanctify the scales in the reckoning that weighs value against value. And suffer not the barren-handed to take part in your transactions, who would sell their words for your labor. To much men you should say, Come with us to the field, or go with our brothers to the sea, and cast your net. For the land and the sea shall be bountiful to you, even as to us. And if there come the singers, and the dancers, and the flute players, buy of their gifts also. For they too are gatherers of fruit and frankincense, and that which they bring, though fashion of dreams, is raiment, food for your soul. And before you leave the marketplace, see that no one has gone his way with empty hands. For the master spirit of the earth shall not sleep peacefully upon the wind, but the needs of the least of you are satisfied. And one of the judges of the city stood forth and said, Speak to us of crime and punishment. And he answered, saying, It is when your spirit goes wandering upon the wind that you, alone and unguarded, commit a wrong unto others and therefore unto yourself. And for that wrong committed, must you knock and wait a while unheeded at the gate of the blessed. Like the ocean is your God's self, it remains forever undefiled. And like the ether it lifts but the winged, even like the sun is your God's self. It knows not the ways of the mole, or seeks the holes of the serpent, but your God self dwells not alone in your being. Much in you is still man, and much in you is not yet man, but a shapeless pygmy that walks asleep in the mist, searching for its own awakening. And of the man in you would I now speak, for it is he, and not your God self, nor the pygmy in the mist that knows crime and punishment of crime. Oftentimes have I heard you speak of one who commits a wrong as though he were not one of you, but a stranger unto you and an intruder upon your world. But I say, even as the holy and the righteous cannot rise beyond the highest which is in each one of you, so the wicked and the weak cannot fall lower than the lowest which is also in you. And as a single leaf turns not yellow, but with the silent knowledge of the whole tree, so the wrongdoer cannot do wrong without the hidden will of you all. Like a procession, you walk together towards your God self. You are the way and the wayfarers. And when one of you falls down, he falls for those. And when one of you falls down, he falls for those behind him, a caution against the stumbling stone. Aye, and he falls for those ahead of him, who, though faster and surer of foot, yet removed not the stumbling stone. And this also, though the word lie heavy upon your hearts. The murdered is not unaccountable for his own murder, and the robbed is not blameless in being robbed. The righteous is not innocent of the deeds of the wicked, and the white-handed is not clean in the doings of the felon. The guilty is oftentimes the victim of the injured, and still more often the condemned is the burden-bearer for the guiltless and unblamed. You cannot separate the just from the unjust, and the good from the wicked, for they stand together before the face of the sun, even as the black thread and the white are woven together. And when the black thread breaks, the weaver shall look into the whole cloth, and he shall examine the loom also. If any of you would bring to judgment the unfaithful wife, let him also weigh the heart of her husband in scales, and measure his soul with measurements. And let him who would lash the offender look unto the spirit of the offended. And if any of you would punish in the name of righteousness and lay the axe onto the evil tree, let him see to its roots, and verily he will find the roots of the good and the bad, the fruitful and the fruitless, all entwined together in the silent heart of the earth. And you judges, who would be just, what judgment pronounced you upon him, who, though honest in the flesh, yet is a thief in spirit? What penalty lay you upon him who slays in the flesh, yet is himself slain in the spirit? And how prosecute you him who in action is a deceiver, oppressor, yet is also aggrieved and outraged? And how shall you punish those whose remorse is already greater than their misdeeds? Is it not remorse the justice which is administered by that very law which you would fain serve? Yet you cannot lay remorse upon the innocent, nor lift it from the heart of the guilty. Unbidden shall it call in the night, that men may wake and gaze upon themselves. And you, who would understand justice, how shall you, unless you look upon all deeds in the fullness of light? Only then shall you know that the erect and the fallen are but one man, standing in the twilight, between the night of his pygmy self and the day of his god self, and that the cornerstone of the temple is not higher than the lowest stone in its foundation. Then the lawyer said, "But what of our laws, master?" And he answered, "You delight in laying down laws, yet you delight more in breaking them. Like children playing by the ocean, who build sand towers with constancy and then destroy them with laughter. But while you build your sand towers, the ocean brings more sand to the shore, and when you destroy them, the ocean laughs with you. Verily, the ocean laughs always with the innocent. But what of those to whom life is not an ocean, and man-made laws are not sand towers, but to whom life is a rock, and the law a chisel, with which they would carve it in their own likeness? What of the cripple who hates dancers? What of the ox who loves his yoke, and deems the elk and deer of the forest stray and vagrant things? What of the old serpent who cannot shed his skin, and calls all others naked, shameless? And of him who comes early to the wedding feast, and when overfed and tired, who goes his way saying that all feasts are violation, and all feasters lawbreakers? What shall I say of these, save that they too stand in the sunlight, but with their backs to the sun? They see only their shadows. Shadows are their laws. What is the sun to them but a caster of shadows? And what is it to acknowledge the laws but to stoop down and trace their shadows upon the earth? But you, who walk facing the sun, what image is drawn on the earth can hold you? You, who travel with the wind, what weather vane shall direct your course? What man's law shall bind you if you break your yoke, but upon no man's prison door? What laws shall you fear? You dance but stumble against no man's iron chains. And who is he that shall bring you to judgment if you tear off your garment, yet leave it in no man's path? People of Orphalese, you can muffle the drum and you can loosen the strings of the lyre, But who shall command the skylark not to sing? An orator said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate, and by your fireside, I have seen you prostrate yourselves and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him though he slays them. Aye, in the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel, I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed, when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief. But rather when these things girdle your life, and yet you rise above them, naked and unbound. And how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour? In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun and dazzle your eyes. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? It is an unjust law you would abolish. That law was written with your own hand, upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, nor by washing the foreheads of judges, though you pour the sea upon them. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. Or how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom, a shame in their own pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, care has been chosen by you rather than opposed upon you, imposed upon you. And if it was fear you would dispel, the seed of that fear is in your heart and not in the hand of the feared. Verily, all things move within your being, and in constant half-embrace, the desired and the dreaded, the repugnant, the cherished, the pursued and that which you would escape. These things move within you as lights, shadows, and pairs that cling, and when the shadow fades, it is no more. Light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. And the priestess spoke again and said, "Speak to us of reason and passion." And he answered, saying, "Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield, upon which your reason and your judgment wage war against your passion and your appetite. Would that I could be a peacemaker in your soul, that I might turn the discord and the rivalry of your elements into oneness and melody. But how shall I, unless you yourselves be also peacemakers, nay, the lovers of all your element? Your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails of your seafaring soul. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss and drift, or else be held at a standstill in the mid-seas. For reason, ruling alone, is a force confining. Passion, unattended, is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Therefore, let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion, that it may sing, and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, a phoenix rise above its own ashes. I would have you consider your judgment and your appetite, even as you would two loved guests in your house. Surely you would not honor one guest above the other, for he who is more mindful of one loses the love and the faith of both. Among the hills, when you sit in the cool shade of the white poplars, sharing the peace and serenity of distant fields and meadows, and let your heart say in silence, God rests in reason. And when the storm comes, and the mighty winds shake the forest, and the thunder and lightning proclaim the majesty of the sky, and let your heart say in awe, God moves in passion. And since you are a breath in God's sphere, and a leaf in God's forest, you too should rest in reason and move in passion. And a woman spoke, saying, Tell us of pain. And he said, Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding, even as the stone of the fruit must break. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. From the top. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity winters, grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence, tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen, and the cup he brings, though it burn your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. And a man said, Speak to us of self-knowledge. He answered, saying, Your hearts know in silence, secrets of the days and the nights, but your ears thirst for the sound of your heart's knowledge. You would know in words that which you have always known in thought. You would touch with your fingers the naked body of your dreams. And it is well you should. The hidden wellspring of your soul must needs rise and run murmuring to the sea. And the treasure of your infinite depths be revealed to your eyes. But let there be no scales to weigh your unknown pleasure. And seek not the depths of your knowledge with staff or sounding line. For self is a sea, boundless and measureless. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather, I have found a truth. Say not, I have found the path of the soul. Say rather, I have met the soul walking upon my path. For the soul walks upon all paths. The soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. Then said a teacher, Speak to us of teaching. He said, No man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. Astronomer, speak to you of his own understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell you of the regions of weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. Even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so much each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God, understanding of the earth. And a youth said, Speak to us of friendship. he answered, saying, Your friend is your needs answered. He is your field, which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. And he is your board and your fireside, where you come to him with your hunger, and you seek him for peace. When your friend speaks his mind, you fear not the nay in your own mind, nor do you withhold the I. And when he is silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words in friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared. It's joy that is unacclaimed. When you part from your friend, grieve not. For that which you love most in him may be clearer in his absence, as the mountain to the climber is clearer from the plain. And let there be no purpose in friendship save the deepening of the spirit. For love that seeks aught, the disclosure of its own mystery, is not love, but a net cast forth, and only the unprofitable is caught. And let your best be for your friend. He must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend, that you should seek him with hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live, for it is his fill you need, but not your emptiness. And in sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter, sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is renewed. And then a scholar said, Speak of talking. And he answered, saying, You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts, and when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered, for thought is a bird of space, that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings, but cannot fly. There are those among you who seek the talkative, fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. And there are those who talk, without knowledge or forethought, reveal a truth which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them. They tell it not in words. In the bosom of such as these, the spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend, on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue. Let the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear, or his soul. Keep the truth of your heart, as the taste of the wine is remembered, the color is forgotten, and the vessel is no more. And an astronomer said, Master, what of time? He answered, You would measure time, the measureless and immeasurable. You would adjust your conduct and even direct the course of your spirit according to hours and seasons. Of time, you would make a stream upon whose bank you would sit and watch in its flowing. Yet the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness, and knows that yesterday is but today's memory, and tomorrow is today's dream, and that which sings and contemplates in you is still dwelling within the bounds of that first moment which scattered stars into space. Who among you does not feel that his power to love is boundless? And yet who does not feel that very love, though boundless, encompassed within the center of his being, and moving not from love, thought to love thought, nor from deeds to other love deeds? And is it not time, even as love is, undivided and spaceless? But if in your thought you must measure time into seasons, let each season encircle all the other seasons, and let today embrace the past with remembrance and the future with longing. One of the elders said, Speak to us of good and evil. And he answered, Of the good in you I can speak, but not of the evil. For what is evil but good tortured by its own hunger and thirst? Verily, when good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves, and when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters. You are good when you are one with yourself. Yet, when you are not one with yourself, you are not evil. For a divided house is not a den of thieves, it is only a divided house. And a ship without rudder may wander aimlessly among perilous isles, and sink not to the bottom. You are good when you strive to give of yourself. Yet you are not evil when you seek gain for yourself. When you strive for gain, you are but a root that clings to the earth, sucks at her breast. Surely the fruit cannot say to the root, "Be like me, ripe and full, and ever giving of your abundance." For the fruit, giving is in need, as receiving is in need to the root. You are good when you are fully awake in your speech. You are not evil when you sleep while your tongue staggers without purpose. And even stumbling speech may strengthen a weak tongue. You are good when you walk to your goal firmly and with bold steps. Yet you are not evil when you go thither limping. Even those who limp go not backward, but you who are strong and swift. See that you do not limp before the lame, deeming it kindness. You are good in countless ways, and you are not evil when you are not good. You are only loitering and sluggard. Pity that the stag cannot teach swiftness to the turtles. In your longing for your giant self lies your goodness, and that longing is in all of you. But in some of you, that longing is a torrent, rushing with might to the sea, carrying the secrets of the hillsides and the songs of the forest. And in others, it is a flat stream that loses itself in the angles and bends and lingers before it reaches the shore. But let not him who longs much say to him who longs little, "Wherefore are you slow and halting?" For the truly good ask not the naked, "Where is your garment?" nor the houseless, "What has befallen your house?" What's the number? We're not quite sure where we're at. 10 maybe? Could be 10. Then the priestess said, "Speak to us of prayer." And he answered, saying, "You pray in your distress, and in your need. Would that you pray also in the fullness of your joy, and in your days of abundance. For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep, your soul summons you to prayer. She should spur you again, and yet again, though weeping, until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour, and whom save in prayer you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to that temple, invisible, be for naught but ecstasy and sweet communion. For if you should enter the temple for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you should enter into it, humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or even if you should enter it, beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple invisible. I cannot teach you how to pray in words. God listens not to your words, save when he himself utters them through your lips. And I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas, and the forests and the mountains. But you who are born of the mountains and the forests and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. If you but listen in the stillness of the night, you shall hear them saying in silence, "Our God, who art our winged self, it is thy will in us that willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. It is thy urge in us that would turn our nights, which are thine, to days which are thine also. We cannot ask thee for aught, For thou knowest our need, for they are born in us. Thou art our need, and in giving us more of thyself, givest us all. Saw a person pop in there for a moment. The prayer chapter, wondering if they thought I was reading the Bible, because that did sound a little King Jamesy at that moment. If that's the case, so be it. Eventually, we are likely to read the Bible, since it is one of the most quoted and popular books in the world. Probably have to do with that in stages, though, because it's a long one. It's got a lot of different ideas going in. On that note, probably also cover the Quran. Probably also cover the Talmud. You can find one. They're not as readily as the Bible. Might get into some Hindu mythology if we can find that. Also, most places in the U.S. My library is not infinite. Sadly. Love if I had access to every book. It's not the case. And thankfully, more books are opening up to the public domain. I'm fairly certain this actually joined the public domain in 2019. So, very lucky. Then a hermit, who visited the city once a year, came forth and said, "Speak to us of pleasure." And he answered, saying, "Pleasure is a freedom song, but it is not freedom. The blossoming of your desires, but it is not their fruit. It is the depth, calling unto a height, but it is not the deep nor the high. It is the caged taking wing, but it is not the space encompassed. Aye, in very truth, pleasure is a freedom song, and I fain would have you sing it with fullness of heart. Yet I would not have you lose your hearts in the singing. Some of your youth seek pleasure as if it were all, and they are judged and rebuked. I would not judge nor rebuke them. I would have them seek, for they shall find pleasure, but not her alone. 7 are her sisters, and the least of them is more beautiful than pleasure. Have you not heard of the man who was digging in the earth for roots and found a treasure? And some of your elders remember pleasures with regrets like wrongs committed in drunkenness. But regret is the beclouding of the mind, and it is not chastisement. They should remember their pleasure with gratitude, as they would the harvest of the summer. Yet, if it comforts them to regret, be comforted. And there are among you those who are neither young to seek, nor old to remember, and in their fear of seeking and remembering, they shun all pleasures, lest they neglect the spirit or offend against it. But even in their foregoing is their pleasure, and thus they too find a treasure, though they dig for roots with quivering hands. But tell me, who is he that can offend the spirit? Shall the nightingale offend the stillness of the night, or the firefly the stars? And shall your flame or your smoke burden the wind? Think you the spirit is a still pool which you can trouble with a staff? Oftentimes in denying yourself, pleasure do, but or the desire in the recesses of your... Is that sentence so hard? Oftentimes, in denying yourself pleasure, you do, but store the desire in the recesses of your being. Who knows that which seems omitted today is for tomorrow? Even your body knows its heritage and its rightful need, and will not be deceived. And your body is the harp of your soul, and it is yours to bring forth sweet music from it or confused sounds. And now you ask in your heart, how shall we distinguish that which is good and pleasure, and that which is not good? Go to your fields and your gardens, and you shall learn that it is the pleasure of the bee to gather honey of the flower, but it is also the pleasure of the flower to yield its honey to the bee. For the bee, a flower is a fountain of life, and to the flower, the bee is a messenger of love, and to both, bee and flower, the giving and the receiving of pleasure is a need and an ecstasy. People of Orphalese, be in your pleasures like the flowers and the bees. And a poet said, "Speak to us of beauty." And he answered, "Where shall you seek beauty, and how shall you find her unless she herself be your way and your guide? And how shall you speak of her, except she be the weaver of your speech?" The aggrieved and the injured say, "Beauty is kind and gentle. Like a young mother, half shy of her own glory, she walks among us." And the passionate say, "Nay, beauty is a thing of and dread. Like the tempest, she takes the earth beneath us, the sky above us." And the tired and weary say, "Beauty, soft whisperings, she speaks in our spirit. Her voices yield to our silences like a faint light, quivers in fear of the shadow." But the restless say, "We have heard her shoutings among the mountains, and with her cries came the sound of hoofs, the beating of wings, and the roaring of lions." At night, the watchmen of the city say, "Beauty shall rise with the dawn from the east." And at noontime, toilers and the wayfarers say, "We have seen her leaning over the earth from the windows of the sunset." In the winter, says the snowbound, "She shall come with the spring, leaping upon the hills." And in the summer heat, the reapers say, "We have seen her dancing with the autumn leaves, and we saw a drift of snow in her hair." All these things have you said of beauty, yet in truth you spoke not of her, but of needs unsatisfied. Beauty is not a need, but an ecstasy. It is not a mouth thirsting, nor an empty hand stretched forth, rather a heart inflamed and a soul enchanted. It is not the image you would see, nor the song you would hear, but rather an image you see. Close your eyes, and a song you hear though you shut your ears. It is not the sap within the furrowed bark, nor a wing attached to a claw, but rather a garden, ever in bloom, and a flock of angels forever in flight. People of Orphalese, beauty is life, when life unveils her holy face. But you are life, and you are the veil. Beauty is eternity, gazing at itself in a mirror. But you are eternity, and you are the mirror. And an old priest said, "Speak to us of religion." And he said, "Have I spoken this day of aught else? Is it not religion, all deeds and all reflections, and that which is neither deed nor reflection, but a wonder and a surprise ever springing in the soul, even while the hands hew the stone or tend the loom? Who can separate his faith from his actions, or his belief from his occupations? Who can spread his hours before him, saying, 'This for God, and this for myself, this for my soul, and this other for my body'? All your hours are wings that beat through the space from self to self. He who wears his morality but as his best garment were better naked. The wind and the sun tear no holes in his skin, and he who defines his conduct by ethics imprisons his songbird in a cage. The freest song comes not from through bars and wires, and he to whom worshipping is a window to open, but also to shut, has not yet visited the house of his soul, whose windows are from dawn to dawn. Your daily life is your temple and your religion. Whenever you enter into it, take with you your all. Take the plow, and the forge, and the mallet, and the lute, the things you have fashioned in necessity or for delight. For in reverie you cannot rise above your achievement, nor fall lower than your failures. And take with you all men, For in adoration you cannot fly higher than their hopes, nor humble yourself lower than their despair. If you would know God, be not therefore a solver of riddles. Rather, look about you, and you shall see him playing with your children. And look into space, and you shall see him walking in the cloud, outstretching his arms in the lightning and descending in rain. You shall see him smiling in flowers, then rising and waving his hands in trees. Then Almitra spoke again, saying, "We would ask now of death." And he said, "You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. You would indeed behold the spirit of death. Open your heart wide unto the body of life, for life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die, but to stand naked in the wind, and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing, and to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand to seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. When you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance. That chapter in particular, I like that. Take a moment to pause for there. I'll be right back. Fill up my water. Firecracker goes when I'm gone. Mm. Making a lot of fades a second. Stop doing it. Oh well. It's whatever. Back to the Prophet by Cleo Capron.
Put a bookmark.
Page 82. Nearly done with it, if you can believe it. Prophet is actually a rather short book, on par with the Tao Te Ching, I suppose, in terms of length, despite it being a prose. Very to the point. No overarching plots and thematics and schemes. It's simply meaning to be helpful in the advice it gives. It's very calm like that. You'll notice a theme so far with Fred. And calm. Very easy to be calm with. Maybe we'll get into racked. Lend itself to public domain books because everything that's so exciting and in a fervor, it's mostly modern stuff. Say the classics didn't have their action and their talent and their skill, because they obviously do, but the way it's presented, far different. English being such a young language in terms of thousands of years of history, thousands of years of Chinese and Arabic poetry. Well, Arabic poetry, thousands? It's almost 2,000. Persian English. Yes. I'm losing track again. We are almost at the mark. 2.5. Started at 8. No. 30. And 30. Doesn't matter. We will likely stop in an hour. I think. Put on the stream. Let me check. Oh, little thing on. We'll find it. Certainly else. I think I'd have so many Turkish. I hope you rest well. Thank you for stopping in, though. I very much appreciate it. We'll have a good one. It's been fun. Nice to read books again. It's helped me get into it again. I'll stop there. Profit and return to Keats. To Kosciuszko. Good Kosciuszko, thy great name alone is a full harvest whence to reap high feeling. It comes upon us like the glorious pealing of the wide spheres, an everlasting tone, and now it tells me that in worlds unknown the name of heroes bursts from clouds concealing, and changes to harmonies forever stealing. Through cloudless blue and round each silver throne, it tells me too that on a happy day, when some good spirit walks upon the earth, thy name with Alfred's and the great of yore, gently commingling, gives tremendous birth to a loud hymn that sounds far, far away, to where the great God lives forevermore. There's another one I want to revisit. But happy as England. As good as he is, I do consider that a touch weaker. The eternal and ethereal. Really one of the only artists who can claim the term ethereal. Being what he is. It's odd to see him mention something so present, something so attached to time like a country. At this point in literary concepts, Grecian and Roman refer to countries, empires, cultures long dead. But he refers to England. And I have reason to think it's the country more of, I mean, it's built it goes over time and the landscape. Hard to say, sure. I'll have to think of something to say. Refreshing and calming. Fireplace is not best suited for poetry. I mean, it's okay. Yeah, is what it is. Figured it out, I think. poem shall we go to next? The Human Seasons. Quality. Classic. 4 seasons fill the measure of the year. There are 4 seasons in the mind of man. He has his lusty spring, when fancy clear takes in all beauty with an easy span. He has his summer, luxuriously, spring's honeyed cut of youthful thought he loved to ruminate, and by such dreaming high is nearest unto heaven. Quiet codes his soul has in its autumn, when his wings he furleth close, contented so to look on the mists in idleness, to let fair things pass by unheeded as a threshold brook. He has his winter too, of pale misfeature, or else he would forego his mortal nature. I think we'll save Nightingale. Look at the table of contents. He has his lyric poem, his narrative poem, his song. Sonnet written on a blank page in Shakespeare. Bright star, westward, would I were steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor. We're starting over. I mispronounced 2 things. It's unacceptable. Let's do it. Bright star, were I steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor, hung aloft the night and watching, with eternal lids apart, like nature's patient, sleepless eremite, the moving waters at their priest-like task of pure evolution, round earth's human shores, were gazing on the new, soft-fallen mask of snow upon the mountains and the moors, no, yet still steadfast, still unchangeable, pillared upon my fair love's ripening breast, to feel forever its soft fall and swell, awake forever in a sweet unrest, still, still, to hear her tender taken breath, so live ever, or else swoon to death. This living hand, now warm and capable of earnest grasping, would, if it were cold, and in the icy silence of the tomb, so haunt thy days and chill thy dreaming nights, that thou would wish thine own heart dry of blood, so in my veins red life might scream again, and thou be conscience calmed. See, here it is, I hold it towards you. What an interesting poem. Not a single one of the lines is rhymed or metered. Where does that one come from? What a bizarre poem. That's incredibly strange. Why is that in the collection? Maybe that's one of his unfinished. So bizarre. is a new person or the person who said they were leaving. There is one person here listening to the soothing sounds of firewood burning and my every so often an actual reading. And struggling with technical issues. Thankfully, the internet only went out once, right during the beginning, and hasn't done it since. Thankful for that. I hope that trend continues. And hopefully, we do have to have the that go out happens early on, and I actually notice instead of broadcasting to no one and knowing nothing about it. Bright star. Star. It's not even titled. Such an interesting. They both are. The two in which end. Sonnet written on a blank page in Shakespeare's poems. It's like he emulated it. Maybe he used a lot more old-timey writing. A lot more, oh, what's the term for Shakespearean? Okay. Middle English. Chaucer. Canterbury Tales. Early English. Beowulf. Shakespearean English is still technically modern English. Called Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Not quite sure how to say that word. Victorian, so much easier to say. Shall I compare you to a summer day? Lovely and temperate. Shake the darling buds of May. I don't think any of that. Well, we streamed to our one viewer for a few hours. Call that a positive. Still haven't done a 0-person stream, technically. And that cutout stream you was there already. Stream number 2. Done. With no zeros. But this time, it's fine. Miracle 4 people showed up the first time and I didn't even know what I was doing. Friday night luck, bro. So, yes, when there's more people. On Friday? I don't know. I don't want to know. But I will be back on Wednesday. We will find something to read. I mean, Keats is a staple. Keats is probably going to time in the realm of poetry because he's just magnificent. Probably finish The Prophet. We'll stay away from the Tao Te Ching for a little while, but it is one of the books that I actually own instead of rent from a library. So we always have it on hand if we need to return to it. I will go through this amazing resource I found called Project Gutenberg. It's like Google Book. There's a larger database of all books in the public domain, so we can find more material for this kind of thing. Books to share with you. Of course, I have my own backlog, which I need to read. Many of these are not books in public domain, so I will, on my own time. Partially why I do stream every day, partially because this seems a bit like a chore to stream every day, especially when you know what you're doing. I don't know how people do the nearly 24/7 thing. I think I like 3. I'm gonna be happy with 3 times a week as far as this goes. But hey, the schedule worked. Maybe not the schedule, maybe the notification. Something worked. So slowly figuring out the technology, gonna figure out which widgets and what was the word for that? Yeah. Give permission and panels. Figure out panels because that's directs you to other places. We want that. Kind of. We at least want to create YouTube for the fog. At the very least. Eventually we will get into editing them and having unique content, maybe not unique, but something that allows this realm of creation. White wall. It's hard to green screen. Oh yeah, along with the a desk boom arm, be a green screen soon. Probably before next week's stuff. Thinking I'll just put it for I honestly don't. Space doesn't look horrible. I'll be honest. Looks a little. Probably start making rice on stream because I'm rather hungry as we continue and nice to have. Need to cook something to go with it, maybe eggs. I want it to be something I can just throw in. I don't have to cook in the middle of it. Or maybe it's good on rice that you don't have to cook. Need more cake. that about wraps it up, I'd say. I'm glad that the stream actually functioned, and that the internet only cut out once. That's a good thing. Didn't have any buffering, just complete cutout. No buffering. Times streams, so I'll take it. Till next time, which will be on Wednesday. To the one viewer who may or may not listen. See you next time. I'm gonna figure out how to do an outro. Yeah.